Greetings, Dapplings, and welcome back as the rains come to an end to episode 3 of our early access coverage of Captain of Industry. It is a beautiful sunny day. It was a fairly gloomy, cloudy day, but I'll take that. It's a good omen. Now, as you can see, the colony is in a reasonably good state as of the end of the previous episode, but there's still many jobs yet to do. And some of them are refactoring what we already have available. And this will be a theme every now and then, where we advance our technology, and as a direct consequence, we can make what we've already got a little bit better. Now, in particular, the first job on the docket today is to automate the delivery of crude oil to the refinery. This is something I'm very guilty of, and if you've been with me for the previous 2 series, you know that I like using trucks for a lot of things that I could use belts or pipes for. And part of that is because it makes a very engaging visual scene, seeing the trucks going around, and I have a very particular soft spot for any game where, you know, just using the ground eventually turns it into a dirt path and eventually into a road, so on and so forth. So I really enjoy seeing where the trucks drive. But whenever it is practical in this series, I would very much like to try and lean into, at least a little bit more than usual, piping or conveying stuff via conveyor belts. The reason for that is that whilst it's very visually appealing to see the trucks darting around like little ants, it does put an artificial strain on our diesel production. One that I would like to see how long our initial oil supply can last for if we're not doing. So that's what we're going to be working on first. Other jobs for today are building a fueling station, setting up conveyors for copper production, and many other things. Also, hopefully, getting efficient concrete production up and running as well. And finally, hopefully doing something a little bit more with the farms. We'll see what we can do with all of those. I've got a couple of other odd jobs here and there in case we make very rapid progress, but I suspect that we won't. Now, first things first, we have ramps available, so let's decide where exactly we're going to pop this ramp down, because we are going to need at least one ramp along the pipes. I'm going to try, because I know it makes people's brains itch when I don't make use of the fact that I can just elevate belts and pipes. The reason why I don't like doing it is because I'll often forget, and then that'll cause me problems. But I will do my best for you and try to learn to not hate the spaghetti of girders and scaffolding support for elevated pipes, and instead learn to love the majestic heights from which someone will climb up there and declare that they are king of the colony, and then promptly fall off and need to be taken to the medical services. I'm not calling anyone out, but we've all at least got a friend who's done something like that, if not been that friend. I'm not going to let you know which category I fall into. All right, let's go ahead and add a little bit more room for our excavators to get some work going over here. One of the things that I'm very aware of I'm going to need to do, I see a load of trucks around, and I don't believe that all of them, oh actually no, quite a lot of them do, in fact, have regular stuff in their truck beds. Do all of them? You've got a little bit of dirt, but we are very quickly running out of places to offload things, so I'm going to have to worry about that one. Probably sooner rather than later. Right, now, currently our priority is, of course, to get these built, and I am happy for that to happen, because right now the system works. We're going to promptly make the system a little bit less stable. But let's bring a pipe through here, and true to my word, let's immediately have it go up to the highest potential height. There we are, and we'll draw this out all the way down to somewhere about here, I'm going to say. We don't really want to get right in the face of that diesel pickup, because we do have some places that we want diesel to be picked up for. Namely, vehicle production, because you have to actually deliver a full can of diesel to the vehicle factory so that it can actually drive out of the factory. Now, we are going to need 2 pipes, not just one. Should I have a overflow over here? I mean, I could do, but I don't think we're really going to need it, so I'm not going to worry about that one too much. Instead, we're going to have just 2 pipes going directly out of the derricks and then straight to the refinery. Now, I would like very much to make use of a splitter to prioritize what we're going to use first. I would like for there to be a drop-off location for crude oil at the refinery. Even though this is a very basic setup that will be refactored later on once we've got better technology, I want somewhere for us to be able to take crude oil that has just found its way out of the normal path and into the system as a whole. For example, crude oil over here. Typically with something like a liquid, that's going to happen when you delete something. So when you break down a storage which has that oil in it, or a pipe that has that oil in it, then rather than lose that material, it gets moved over to the docks. So occasionally we'll have just loose bits of oil, or indeed sand, or whatever, just around the colony, and I want a way to reintroduce that to where it wants to be, and to prioritize that being used over, for example, draining our crude oil reserves even more. But that is going to require a couple of things, namely, are we even researching belt balances? We are not. So let's go for transport balancing. This will give us flat balancers, U-shaped balancers, pipe balancers, and molten balancers. Something I've really not used yet, but maybe we will have a look at using that in the coming episode, because we are going to be expanding out, or trying to redesign, at the very least, the iron smelting. So maybe we'll see if we can make some sort of tileable design that uses that. I am big on using tileable designs because that allows for much more convenient expansion later on. Now we're just going to have to bite the bullet and completely deconstruct this. It is just the way that it needs to be. Hopefully this is on auto. It is still on auto. That's marvelous. So that means that that will automatically be moved around. Now, as I said, I want somewhere that we can drop this material off in time. Where is that pipe? It's right there. I'm going to shimmy these to the side. Now this is going to mean that, unfortunately, it's not going to look as swish, but I think, actually, you know what, I'm going to try and leave at least 3 tiles. In my experience, you need 3 tiles worth of room to be able to move a truck. So if I do this, I will be moving the coal back. The coal, for now, we're not going to have a central location for belting the coal, because that would put such a massive strain on our component, our construction component 2s. Because those conveyor belts take a while. The pipes are nice and easy to build. The conveyors, not as much, or at least as I recall, they are not. Yeah, they require construction component 2s, whereas the pipes only require construction component 1s. So I'm much more happy to use heavy piping over conveying to get things where they need to be. But both of these, let's just go ahead and set them up. This one will need to be kept full. I would like to turn off exporting. This one will need to be kept full, and I would also like to turn off exporting. There we go. They're going to be fairly low priorities, or rather, I guess, middling priorities, I should say. Right, there we are. That's all done and done, and I would like this one to be cleared out as well. So let's go ahead and tell that one to, both of these should now be emptying out their storages and clearing them out. Alright, well, with that happening, now that we've got efficient concrete, and indeed this is the thing that's really holding us back right now, that's really delaying our production of construction parts 1, I think now's the time for us to consider building up a proper concrete plant. Now, I guess we're going to keep it down here just because of the easy access to the water. I will help out a little bit, though, by going ahead and trading a little bit more wood away. There we go. I don't like relying on that, but at the moment, everything would get done eventually. I'm just going to speed it up by exchanging some wood for concrete slabs, and I think that's a-okay really there. Now, how are we going to set this up? Well, in regards to the comments that I've been receiving, the many comments, by the way, so thank you very much for offering me your advice. A lot of people tend to crush down rock into gravel, into sand, and then they can rely much less heavily on actually excavating sandbanks. I like that idea, but I don't think I would ever truly feel comfortable completely removing the excavator in at least one truck. But I could go down to one truck over here and then have sand that has been dug up from a sandbank like this as a backup just in case we don't have the rock. That's unlikely to happen, especially if we stop dumping it as a consequence. Also, by the way, thank you ever so much for all of the advice and knowledge sharing in regards to the different materials and how far they can drift from any particular arbitrary height. If you're building up a ramp, say, out of slag versus a ramp out of rock, rock is more stable. Then it's slag, crushed slag. I didn't see anything on plastic, but I'm going to assume that plastic is somewhere between crushed slag and rock, but is not as stable as rock. Now then, we have this ability for us, so I would very much like to get that set up, like right away if we can, to start producing all of this that we're able to, and also allowing for the process from rock to to gravel to sand as well as using some of the rock, some of the gravel itself in this process. Ooh, okay, so this line is actually going to be very, very busy, my lord. Okay, how much can it produce? It can produce 24 gravel. So one can produce rock into 24 gravel. Then I could perhaps have two of them. One that produces, or rather, one that just takes the gravel into sand. How much sand do you need? You need 6 per 60 seconds. That should be fine then. So I should be able to have two in line. One that turns the rock into gravel, then that gets split. Part of the gravel goes to the concrete mixer itself, and part of it goes through a second processing stage. Alright, give me a few moments to lay down some blueprints. Okay, you do not want to know how long it took me to decide on a design for this setup, to include all of the redundancies that I wanted to. But this mess of a thing that you're looking at right now, let me see if that remains. There we are. It's actually not too bad. And you can see my cursor. This is brilliant. Okay, so this mess of a thing before you is going to be capable of running 2, and only 2. Well, I mean, there will be excess of varying materials, but we're just going to be running 2 concrete production off of this. But that should be more than enough to last us for quite some time into the future. It will also be able to process slag, rock, limestone, and coal, obviously, to make the cement, and will accept a backup supply of sand. In addition, it will output concrete slabs and excess gravel that we can then use for landfill if we need. Now, for the more detailed description, sand goes in there, we have rock here, slag, coal, and limestone. The easiest line to understand is the cement line, which just takes limestone and coal, makes cement and exhaust. The exhaust is vented there, and then the limestone is delivered on the middle belt to each cement mixer. As for slag, that's another easy one that just goes into the crusher. It becomes crushed slag. Now, crushed slag is going to be given a priority. I want to go through crushed slag over rock because I can use rock and gravel to do many, many other things. But if I don't use up the crushed slag, or rather the slag, then that could start backing up my my production of iron or copper, depending. So that will get priority into this system, and then that will be fed into each of these. Now I'm going to, again, give these correct priority there, so they will prefer crushed slag over gravel if they have a choice. If there are mixed materials in storage, then they have a choice. They will always try to use the slag up first. Now, as for the rock comes in here. First, it gets crushed into gravel. The gravel will then, as a priority, send evenly to be used straight up as gravel, or to be processed a little bit further into sand. If there is an excess, however, then that excess is belted out all the way down here into a pickup point for my for my trucks, which might want to get rid of that, for example, to be able to do a little bit of landfill here and there. And in fact, I might even give that one a stay empty order, so they will try and empty that out first. That way we're using the gravel instead of the rock. I'm kind of on the fence on that one still a little bit. But what about sand? Well, sand comes down into here, and this is where this sand line also joins up, but it will take priority of the sand that is made out of rock. So the sand that is excavated for us will have that is just a backup. Should we ever, for some reason, run out of rock, perhaps I've found we're at the point now where we're just digging out vast coal and iron and copper seams without any actual mountain side in there. We're now into the heart of the seams. Then we might be running low on rock, so we do need this as a backup. But that is it. That is the whole system. Now, it's going to take me an enormous amount of time to set this up. Obviously, I've got a little bit of water being delivered. I will allow for 2 inputs. One will come probably from down here. It'll be a bit of a long pipeway. But this is going to take me an age to get built, and not much else is going to get built in the meanwhile while we're letting that happen. We're still actually trying to get rid of all of this, which is kind of an annoyance, but we'll see how... Oh, you know what? Aavak is a dumb. Actually, no. Aavak is not a dumb. I take it back. I thought for a second, oh no, I'm popping the coal in here and it's just flowing straight in. This will never get emptied. But no, because I've told this to be broken down, it's actually shut off even the connected inputs. That's actually pretty good. I like that. But with all of that said and done, we're going to have a long break here while I let all of this get built, because cement is definitely the thing that's holding us back. So without further ado, there we go. I will see you soon. And welcome back. The beast is finally built and is in full operation as it happens. Glorious full operation. Though one thing I have realized very, very quickly actually, yeah, I was assuming that we had loads of rock around and that we were constantly dumping it in my previous series. No, we really are not. That is not coming in thick and fast, not nearly as thick and fast as I was expecting. So I don't imagine we're really going to see use of this too much. Still, it's there for the future. But we now have 2 concrete slab mixers working. We have got an enormous amount of research done, because if you look over here, it's the year 0024. It was year 0016 when I said goodbye and we'd get this built. Yeah, there used to be a forest here and everything. It's fine though. The colony's doing okay. The colony haven't actually gotten close to over population. Well, I mean, there's still 7 more beds. It's fine. But all things said and done, I'm really, really happy with this system. This is probably going to last us for a long time. It's probably one of the more complicated systems that I've ever built for this. I've already got some ideas on how it can be improved, but that will have to take a little bit while longer and a lot more research before we have the components to really start making use of this. In particular, I am thinking about the smart conveyor routing. That way we can start using these much more intelligently rather than brute force, which we're doing right now, like 1 for each type of thing I might want to grind up, whereas later on maybe we can do some interesting things with that, with like feedback loops and so on and so forth. But nevertheless, that is all done, and over here we are now piping in all of the crude oil. I'm super duper happy about this. So that is actually scratched off 3 different jobs off my to-do list of a humble 6. Now, if you look over here, we've got irrigated farms, groundwater pump, retaining walls. Very, very fun. And if this is the first time that you've seen Early Access and you haven't been to any of my Early Access streams for Captain of Industry, this is going to possibly rock your world. It might be like, I don't really do too much sculpting of terrain, so it might not matter too much to those of you who don't really terraform the land. But for those of you who do, this is going to be amazing. We've also got vegetable farming and crop rotation. Let's get rid of those and then bring up the tutorial on farming. So, managing your island's industry wasn't enough for you? You decided to be a farmer as well? So let's cover some basics. Farms grow crops, and crops can be used in various places, but mainly to feed your pops. It says various because you can 100% turn your crops into more land. In a beautiful circle of life sort of way. You need land to grow the taters. You use the taters to make the land. You use the compost. You use the compost to make more land on which to grow more taters, to make more compost, to make more land. It's wonderful. Nature is great. Water. The water is replenished by rain, even for greenhouses, but rain is not a reliable source, and more advanced crops are more demanding, so having an external source of water is recommended. Irrigated farms automatically distribute water when the soil gets dry, so externally supplied water does not get wasted. Farm yield gets reduced if crops don't have enough water and may even completely dry out. Fertility is a bit more complex. Now, this is the part where it starts to... I really do appreciate the iterative process they've gone through in making the tutorials much more understandable, whilst also covering, in some ways, complex mechanics within the base game. Fertility is a bit more complex. Farm's fertility directly affects the yield. When a farm has 50% fertility, it only produces 50% of what it could have produced if it was at 100. That's so far so simple. Crops consume fertility on a daily basis, but farms also have a daily natural fertility replenishment, meaning that leaving a farm empty without growing anything would replenish its fertility slowly back to 100%. Over time, fertility will stabilize at some value based on the planted crops. This value is called fertility equilibrium. This is the final fertility you can expect if you maintain your current crop schedule for a long time. Also, if you don't rotate your crops, meaning you keep growing the same crop all the time, which is what we've been doing, you get a fertility penalty. To overcome all the fertility costs, there are several options. You can rotate regular crops with green manure, which increases soil fertility but does not yield any products. But the biggest farmer's overclogging dream are fertilizers. They can increase your farm's fertility and keep it there. Some of them can even increase the fertility over 100% to get even more out of each farm. However, you need to make sure you provide a stable supply. To make fertilizers work, you need to connect a pipe with fertilizer to your farm and drag the fertility target slider to the desired level, and the farm will automatically fertilize the soil to maintain that specified level. Note that each fertilizer has its own maximal fertilizing target it can reach. Also, the conversion of fertilizer to fertility is not always one-to-one and is displayed in the UI. So on the topic of displayed in the UI, let's have a look here. So right now our fertility equilibrium is garbage. We want to very much improve that, but you did probably notice that we have got vegetables. Now, vegetables consume the same amount of fertility, but we will drop the negative impact of just growing one crop. So already we're up to 65% over 47. So that was a very, very simple change for us there. So let's get that into place. And maybe if we added some green manure, that would get us up to a fertility equilibrium of 75%. I think that's reasonable. 3/4 of all of the time, all of the crops would result in actual viable harvests. A little bit of the growth time would be lost. 25% of the crop yield would not be available to us, but we can manage that, I think, especially if we make sure that these farms have easy access to water. Now, to make an irrigated farm, we need electronic parts, and we also need a reasonable amount of construction parts too. But we should be able to get that on the go, so let's mark that down. Now, the problem with this, and it is a problem, is our pipes over on this side are ever so close to where they need to be. However, what I will say is that right now we're drawing water from our rainwater harvesters straight into the fluid storage, and so we got a bit of a backup. If we can pipe in groundwater pumps into this, directly into this fluid storage, then that is going to massively, massively help us. Or alternatively, into a splitter, so a pipe balancer down here. So we give priority to the free rainwater that we're getting. Now, where are the nearest groundwater sources? Because we've also, thankfully, finished researching that as well. It's a little ways away, but not terribly. And again, much like the fuel, as long as we are on any part of this, then we have access to the entirety of it. So I'm thinking that may well be worth us doing. Okay, let's have a think about this then. Furthermore, I think I'm not sure if I've got enough room to really fit this here, but I guess I could do. I could pop it right there, but they are still expanding that little part out, so I'm going to let them work on that for the time being. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove rock from being allowed to be globally dumped. At this point, I want gravel to be globally dumped, so let's add gravel on there. There should never be a point where we have excess rock. At this point, we should, I imagine, be converting all of the rock into gravel, and if we've got enough slag, then that gravel will be excess, and so that can be dumped. If we have too much slag, then that will be dumped, and plastic will be dumped here and there. I had to start another plastic ramp over here. I feel like we're going to be getting up to every single level based on plastic, because I don't want to dump it in the ocean, and I know there isn't any actual impact on it. I just don't feel okay doing that. I know, I'm a bit weird with finicky little things like that. It took me an enormous amount of time to be okay with putting slag in the ocean. I still refuse to have slag anywhere near a landfill next to the towns, though. Again, I'm Welsh, there's history with that. Right. This is going to be finished very, very quickly. Nice, let's just speed that up a little bit so I can see exactly where we need to connect the water pipe. Okay, there we go. Right, I would like a water pipe right down here, if I could. Sure, that actually works out well. Let's go from here, then. Right there. Oh, I love how easy it is to move pipes around. I really do. There we go. Alternatively... Actually, no. We're not going to do it like this. And the reason why I'm not going to do it like that is because eventually I want to pipe in fertilizer. And I have to assume that this is more or less going to be the way that this design is. So, instead, I'll come down from a little bit further along. That way, I can have a pipe running underneath here, maybe on the second level, and then that can connect up to the fertilizer points. That will be a nicer way of doing it. Also, I should turn off the planning mode, because I will forget that I've got that on a lot, actually, and I will be wondering why things are not getting built. Alright, there we go. We've also got settlement water has been finished. Well, that is actually marvellous. Marvellous news indeed. Now, I'm kind of feeling that we need to expand out a little bit, so I'm going to pop a house right about there to mark an area for future expansion. Later on, I'm going to move these away from there, I'm thinking. I'm kind of in the mood to have several cities, several population centers, rather than just one massive one. As we've more or less always had in every prior series, and that is the large reason why I want to do it, because I want to mix things up a little bit. You know how it goes. However, we're going to need this water pump, let's say about there. We'll probably end up having two. We're also going to want a ramp. Doesn't need to be a very large one over here, because I'm only going to be running one pipe for now. Maybe later on I'll have to upgrade it, but for the time being, this should be good enough. There we are. But that can guarantee that things can move over in this direction. Wow, they are throwing that up super fast. I am very, very happy with that. Very happy indeed. Right, over here though, I'm afraid we're going to have to lose this pipe. There we go. We will then... can I quickly remove it? I can, so I will. We're going to have a little pipe balancer right about here. Right there. And if I am lucky, unfortunately, I can't get that one to quick build. Oh well. Let's connect these up, like so. And then we'll have the water from this heading over there. I'm going to go through the middle. No, I won't. Try and leave plenty of room for future expansion, Aavak. It is important. However, we will go... We'll go as far as the house here, and then we're going to rise up. Now, the reason why I did that is because I expect to have the town water supply hooking up just in that area. There we go, and this is going to mean that we don't really need to worry too much about connections. And our trucks can move around there. Excavators can use the bridge, though. I'm going to want to prioritize water coming in. Oh, that is a priority out. No. That needs to be toggled. There we go. It's now a priority in. That way, we will always take the free water wherever it is available. This will then head on down here to the fluid storage. I am probably going to add a fluid storage and a splitter over here if I'm thinking about it. In fact, let's have a look at where the water facility can be placed. It's quite a big structure, actually. I could also have it down here, I guess, but could I build it? And I think you can build it underneath, but you have to kind of plan ahead for that, unfortunately. Alright, well, we'll have the water... Ooh, I just realised, of course, we're going to need both water and a way to get rid of wastewater here. That I hadn't really considered. I had not considered that at all, in fact. Okay, well, in this case, sadly, and I am a bit frustrated with myself for this one, I'm thinking we're going to need to move this. So let's just delete this for now. We're going to have a pipe moving in this direction. I'm thinking, that being said, I could also have the pipe branch off down here and just dump maybe around there. Again, it doesn't really matter where these are. It doesn't have any real impact. Oh, is there anywhere I can place this? I could place it there apparently, but not... Oh, apparently we can get it about here. That's fine then. Let's kind of line it up with the trade depot. Right, about there will do. There we go. Oh, no. That will not do. Very well. Let's cancel that. Can that only go in one direction? Oh. Right, well, I guess I could have it over here then. But I was leveling that area out. We may actually have to have it piped over here and then hooked up into the wastewater down on this side. Not the ideal scenario, I must confess, but I guess it's something we're just going to have to live with. Oh well. Well, first, before that, let's pop this in. We ultimately want to be able to store up the rubber that we're producing. So let's get that. Oh, can that not go around? Ah, yes. There's that little lump there in the terrain. There we go. This will accept rubber. It will... Oh, sorry. It will not import. It will export. There we go. That shouldn't take over long for us to get up and running. What I can do over here then is I would like, first and foremost, I do want a storage for the water, and we could probably have something like that about here, I would say. Would probably fit in fairly well. There we go. We will then add in a pipe about there, going straight up and connecting in, and then over here as well. And just because I can, I will have both of these connect. It will never actually accept that much water, but if we've got a large stockpile, maybe we'll use that at some point. I just need to get rid of those two pipes, then we can pop this balancer in there. Just as soon as they get rid of that, let's get it out of the way. There we go. There we are. Now I'm going to need that to be a fairly high priority. This one is going to get priority for the town's water supply, for obvious reasons. I never want the town to run out of water. That has a higher priority than sending the groundwater over here, because we also have this to help with irrigating the farm, so that should be fine. Let's have a look. That will produce 35, rather, let's have a look. Does this tell me the overall expectation? 4.8 and 5. 4.8 and 5. This doesn't really improve the yield, it simply makes it more stable. But I'm okay with that. That should be fine, all things considered. There we can go. Marvellous. Oh, we've got a pretty rowdy thunderstorm going on right now. Right. Next up, we're going to need a way to get that groundwater out. Sorry, the groundwater? No, the groundwater's already getting out. What we need is a way to deal with the polluted water. Well, I mean, I could have the piping over there. Again, this isn't something I need to put too much worry into, because for most of the vehicles going this way are going to be trucks. And yeah, to that end, let's go ahead and move this down a little bit. Can I move it once it's started? That's interesting. That's very interesting. Did it actually receive any of the initial materials that were being supplied? Because they've managed to lay some foundation there. I wonder if you could use that in order to adjust the look of the terrain. Maybe worth for sciencing in the future, that one. Hopefully I will remember to explore that. Let's get this down here. There we are. I want it all the way down. Now, around about here is where we're going to have to tuck around behind. There, that'll do. We could even come all the way down here and then all the way down and connect up. There we go. That is going to take a very long time to do. These pipes have enormous requirements once you actually start throwing them down. Oh, I actually connected that up in the wrong place, though, thinking about it. Let me get rid of that. But we're going to need a pipe removing all of the wastewater out of here. It will have to cross over, and that's fine. We'll just drag that back a little bit, actually. Something like that. There we go. And if we just bring this up on top and over, then I can have it connect up. Shouldn't be an issue. Incompatible end. Oh, the direction is incompatible, perhaps? Yes, there we go. Nope, let's get that connected up properly. There we go. Not as tidy as I would have liked it, but it will do. We can get that part constructed all at once. There we are. Now, this should mean that we're producing quite a lot of Unity at this point. If we have a look in here, we're getting a nice bonus from the water we're delivering, from the food we're delivering. The general health of the population is good. We've got 2 research labs, though we're not really making that much use of them just yet. I think we will add in one more section. Eventually, I'm going to probably have this as a 2x3, 6 areas. For the time being, we're going to want to move around the area where we're accepting deliveries of food, because for now I'm going to set this one to accept potatoes and this one to accept vegetables. There we go. Later on we can build buildings which have more that can accept more different types of foods in a single building. Like this is basically just a food market, but you'll eventually have much larger stores, so you don't need to have a huge amount of space for all of the different types of foodstuffs, but it probably wouldn't be a bad idea all the same. We will have the waste collected at the top, though, I think, and then once all of those are built, I can remove these and then fill out the last little bit of room in there. Okay, that's pretty good. We've managed to get crop rotation out of the way. We are now going to be growing vegetables, so it's going to take us a little bit of time before we get to them. We have also set up groundwater and water for the settlement itself. We should already have the wastewater making its way down to the outflow pipe down here. Now, hopefully, that's not going to be so much that it can't accept it all. Let's just double check. How much are you producing? You're producing 4 every 60 seconds. You're producing 12 every 60 seconds. And how much do you tend to produce? 10. Yeah, we're easily under the 60 that this can handle in that period. The 1 per second. That should be fine. Alright, next we're working on Captain's Office, which I'm very happy about. But there is one last thing in regards to fuel that we have been putting off for a very, very long time. And that is finally, of course, to get ourselves a fuel station up and running. And I can just tuck it in between. Oh, that's so good. If only those girders were just 1 closer, I would be in heaven. But oh well. I will accept this as it is. That being said, you're going to be a bit harder to reach. I guess what I could do is bring that further down. Sure, okay. We'll do that, and I'm going to tell this to empty out. Tell this one to accept. And hopefully that will all work out okay. We don't need an import on this. So let's just make that a very high priority, because we're going to need to get that one sorted out sooner rather than later. Now, as far as the food markets go, that one is up and running. So at this point, I can safely get that removed. This should have a very high priority now that there is food in there, basically, because I have learned the lesson of not deleting or setting to be deleted your only food market, even if you've got another one being built, because all of a sudden the food that's in there is now completely unreachable to the people. They will literally, you've just put up a sign outside saying, you know, unsafe, demolitions pending. And your population, although they are on the verge of actual death levels of starvation, knowing that that warehouse is just full of taters, they will not step a foot into that area. Such is their faith in the orders that you give them. I don't even. But it is a thing. I'm sure at some point I'll be very glad that they take my orders so seriously. But there are times when I do wish that maybe they would be a little bit less willing to ignore their needs because I told them to. Right, let's have a look. What are you moving? Oh, you're moving just the rubber, really. Interesting. Very interesting. Well, let's try and get that emptied out for now. Well, I guess I need truck import on if I'm going to do this. I could, I suppose, to make it faster, I could just belt it in, but I think our trucks should be able to empty this out, especially if I pop that onto a priority 1. And hopefully we'll see all of that move around. There we go. This is almost set up for veggies. That has been set up now, so I can happily remove this. Oh, glorious days. We are making some progress, everyone. Making fair amounts of progress. How are we doing for slag? Oh, we're not. We're basically not doing for slag at all. Well, I would like it if that was a little bit better, but I guess we're just going to have to accept it as it is. Right, there we go. Almost filled that up. Hopefully we will fill it up in just a moment. Will you drop that off there immediately? Yes, you will. I swear. At this point, you may as well just drive down here, park the truck, get out, and then just carry the stuff across. It would probably be easier for you. Hopefully, we will see that this gets demolished now. There we go. It should be very simple. Boom. There we are. And then we can just have this go the rest of the way and connect up. There we are. That'll be perfect. I'll even fast build that one. Now, as I was mentioning, the final item on the docket for today's episode was setting up the fuel refinery properly. Or rather, the fuel station. There we go. This is going to be quick delivered. Hopefully I can quick deliver there as well. Oh, marvellous. Let's get 3 trucks for this, I think. 3 trucks would do a fine job. Now, one thing I could do is I could have a balancer that made sure that I had a fuel available to be picked up before I put any fuel in here. And I kind of like that idea, if I'm honest. So let's get these out of the way. There we go. Hopefully that's gone. No, it isn't. That's fine. It's a little bit finicky, and I am wasting Unity by doing stuff like that, but at the same time, we've got so much Unity. Now, I want that priority out to be in the direction of the fuel station. That should always have ample amounts of fuel available, and then any excess can be made available for my vehicles. But at this stage, pretty happy with the work that we've done. I think the very last thing that I have on the list of things to do, and this is more of an aside, is setting up a more tileable version of our smelter over here. So, with that in mind, let's have a look. How could we make this more tileable? Also, let's have a look at the amount of things that it would be producing. Right now, it produces 12 slag every 60 seconds. That's good. We very much want to get that out of here. We could probably have them tiled 2 by 2. We can easily then have a conveyor, and we should probably do that right now. So let's pop this conveyor into position. Just running down here into there. 1 and 2 right there. I will have to have this lifted up a little bit though to make this work. So let's remove that pipe. And again, quick build is your friend. And we'll just pop out here and up and along. We'll most likely need to build it at least out to there. And then we can have this just lean down. There we go. And on the far side, I'm thinking if we do something like that, and then simply remove this section. Dread. Doesn't quite work. Okay, well, let's try that again. And this time, we are going to pop this in position, and then we'll remove that final little part there. There we go. We are going to try and make this central, and it's going to look glorious if it should work. Hopefully it does. I'll have you there. And we will mirror this around as well. So we've got a central channel to remove the slag. Now, this can handle 60 per 60 seconds. This produces 24, so we can really only have 1 per 2. Okay, well, that will work. I could have this just move down a little bit. That should be fine. In that case, I'm thinking I'll have the smokestacks in the middle. If we have this, just lean down there, and then ideally connect that up. Can I force it to connect up? No. It's too tight of a bank, sadly. Okay, well, let's have a rethink of how we're doing this then. One other way I could do it is something like this, and have this go straight down like so, and then from this point, maybe there, and connect up. Can I have that connect up at all? No, not easily. Okay, this is a very, very tight build at this point, which does leave us some problems. Oh, let's make sure you don't end up building that before I'm ready. Let's bring this down, connect that up. There we go. I could always build just another one, a dedicated one, but it seems silly. It's how much? 10 construction parts. Would the pipe cost more than that? Let's actually find out. If I built that pipe, which is more or less the length that I'd need it to be, 6 construction parts. So realistically, you would be saving a little bit if you decided to move it like that. Whether we will or not, I am undecided. Can I bring you up? Can this not move up in this direction? I would like you not to anchor. Ooh, this might be a problem. One I had not considered. But it appears that this does not want to turn around there. Let me remove these then. It might be this, and we might find... Oh, no. We're not going to be able to have a joint there. Okay. This whole setup then will have to move around a little bit, but we kind of knew that was going to be the case. Okay. Give me a few moments, and there we go. A much more tileable design, at least from this part upwards. Down here, this would probably be built custom based on the area and how many of these I'm going to be tiling, because we might need a little bit more throughput. But this should work perfectly. Now, we are going to have coal, as usual, split between the lines. Copper, as usual, split between the lines. But something that will probably be a new feature is that we are probably going to have renewable copper scrap at some point. So I need a way of dealing with that. So this will take the copper scrap as a priority. Now remember, the copper scrap will not produce slag because it is just bits of copper that we're passing through the furnace to make molten and then to reform, or reforge, I guess you might say. Over here, of course, we've got the delivery of the slag then to be taken away. Both of these, I think this is going to look so lovely, having that kind of mirror line right down the middle, and especially the molten channels, because of course they're going to be molten, so they will glow, which will look especially nice. Now, obviously I would like to be able to deal with the water over here, and I'm thinking maybe we can. I can possibly have that being piped over here, so I don't need to be reliant on any additional trucks there. So how about we do that as one of the last things we do in this episode. Now, generally speaking, we're not going to need to worry. Well, actually, I kind of want that to be another entry point of water, but no, I think we should be able to work with this. Let's go ahead and bring this all the way out. In fact, we should be able to just bring it over the top here if we want to. And since this is an area that is mostly going to see trucks, I'm not too worried. Nevertheless, we will do the last little bit of it on the ground. I would like a little bit of storage here for the water, just to be certain that we're never going to have an issue there. But as always, just for future-proofing this area, let's add that in so an excavator can get easy access to this area. Now, do we have enough construction parts? We don't, sadly, but we're not that far off it. All things considered, there we go. We can now finish that off. And that will mean that my trucks no longer have to keep bringing water over here manually. I have added a couple of extra trucks, though, into the mix, so hopefully this will also remove some of the strain on our logistics network. As we can see, we're back to being stable. We did have a little bit of trouble with maintenance, but it was largely that I had so many jobs and not enough trucks to do them that all I needed to do was just rise the priority on deliveries, and we're now back to the point of everything being good. But I think that's going to be more or less where we wrap up today's episode. We've actually got an enormous amount of work done. I know it doesn't look like too much has changed around the colony, but to recap, we have automated the delivery of crude oil, and thus we have taken a large amount of strain off getting our diesel being produced. Also, we have rubber being accumulated in a storage area. We've added a fueling station, so our excavators are no longer going to have to come down here to collect diesel. So this is largely now a repository for diesel, purely for the use in making vehicles. We're still clearing out some of the stuff in the shipyard, and we'll get that done a little bit faster in the next episode, I'm sure. We've also added water to the settlement. We've added groundwater pumps. We are making use of both free water from the skies and also, well, I mean, not really free water from the ground, but still, it's a rather large supply of water down there, so this is probably going to carry us for quite some time. We are already removing the wastewater from the settlement, so we are, where we can, trying to limit the amount of driving our trucks have to do. Now, if I was very smart, I would have built these on this side, so I could simply have the food being belted straight into them. Maybe something for the next episode. But the biggest and most time-consuming part, and easily the one that I'm the most proud of, was the expansion of our concrete production. I was thinking about the copper over there. This has now been expanded out so that we are using rock, we are using slag, we are now actually making our own cement and using sand to get the best version of this recipe to be used. And as a result, we actually have a healthy surplus of concrete there. Though, one last thing we need to do before we go, as you will have noticed, I have already upgraded the second farm to an irrigated farm. So let's just get that up and running so that we never have to worry about our taters being dry, or indeed leafy greens as well. But hopefully we can get all of this finished reasonably soon, because we are actually starting to run out of copper, and that would be disastrous for our maintenance. So I'll just pop that one onto a higher priority. But there we go. That is a nice cutting off point for this episode. We are not very far away from having access to the next tier. Now, what we do from here, I don't know. I'm thinking we'll probably come around here and build another ramp around there. And each time we do that, we gain access to more and more and more trees. And I think that's probably the key for this one. We'll probably dig a little channel through here so we can gain access to all of the trees on this side. But eventually we'll have to get around to the back end of the island. We might even be able to do that fairly easily by just connecting up there. This is a nice gentle sandbank, so our trucks are probably going to be able to go over that incline. Well, we'll have to make a ramp over there. But all in order to not throw those tiny plastics into the ocean. There will be no turtles with their heads stuck in plastic rings on my watch. But that is going to be it from me for today. I really do hope you've enjoyed, and if you have, do consider leaving a like down below to let me know. But until next time, and as always, do take care, everyone.